Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and today is Wednesday, October 13th. Theme of the day, a lot more bright spots today. Breadth good for the second day in a row, and growth really loved the move in interest rates today. Big move up in bonds. Big move up in bonds this week. I think they're up close to almost 3%. I think bonds have rallied this week, and it's given a real nice move in growth stocks the last couple days. So we'll get into all of that. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Read the whole risk disclaimer there. And if the video is a little bit blurry, just give it a little bit more time because YouTube takes forever to render the high definition version of the video. So let's get to the indices first, and then we'll get to some of the breakdown. But a couple things came out today. Of course, CPI, which was a tenth of a percentage point higher than expected, 0.4 versus 0.3. But I don't know. I was making a little bit of a wise guy comment on Twitter, just that at this point everybody knows that there's inflation. Like, I don't think people outside of trading, who don't normally even look at this stuff, probably inflation is one of the most talked about things. So I think it's just somewhat priced into the market now that just everyone knows that it's out there. So 0.4 versus 0.3, yes, that's still not, that doesn't make it good. That there is inflation present, but the market prices in things after a while, and I think that, like I said, everybody knows that there's inflation all over the place, various different parts of the economy. We also had the Fed minutes today. They a little bit of more language that we've heard all this. My thoughts on the Fed minutes is it's always old information, but sometimes it shocks people, I guess. But the Fed minutes is back from a couple weeks ago, and we've heard every Fed speaker speak since then talking about tapering. So I don't think there's anything new. Maybe just more specifics that came out. I thought that was kind of interesting to hear. That's when they're going to start, which could be November, December, and when they're looking at finishing sometime next year. All right, so that's the economics. Tomorrow you get PPI, so another gauge of inflation. That one they're looking for a more reasonable number, I think, in terms of expectations. 0.6, that's a lot, but we know that these companies are facing just higher costs all over the place. All right, so that'll be tomorrow at 8:30. So let's get to the price action. Yeah, so we are now pushing back towards that bottom of value. Right, we closed right around there. Bullish engulfing for the day, so that's good. Baby steps with these indices right now. It is like pulling teeth trying to get this group to rally just a little bit. So we finished up 30. S&P futures finished up 32 basis points, but you could see on the 5-minute bar, right? This was, if I zoom out a little bit, this was the level from yesterday that got rejected. Notice we got right back there again today. So remember, the market is made up a lot of different participants, but there are some participants that are heavily selling right now. Now, there could be also some participants that are now buying the dip at this point, but I think there's that push and pull right now going on in the market because you just see that every time that we rally, we just cannot sustain a decent move right now. But baby steps, up 32 basis points is something, and at the very least, because as I go through sectors, there's some areas that outperformed very nicely today, and some areas that underperformed. Of course, you're gonna, people that are positioning in growth stocks absolutely love today because there's so many names that that took off to the upside. So you're gonna hear a lot about well, my stocks really did well, or that we got much better participation today. It depends on what area, right? And if you're mainly in growth stocks, then this was a very good day for you. I would think. All right, and we'll go through some of those in just a second. But again, just to kind of illustrate what we're seeing here, Nasdaq. If you look at the performers again today, even though Apple came out with that news and Apple finished just barely red on the day, not a big deal. But again, it doesn't seem to be the biggest names in the biggest names in the queues, right? So just for reference, if you want to look at the biggest names, Google, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, right? These names are not moving much right now. So of course, if you look at the percentage, and it's all just a mathematical, it all adds up to one. But the bigger weights, Apple's 11% of this finishes down on the day, right? Amazon hasn't been much of a mover. Google hasn't been much of a mover. And then if you look at the right? If you look at the movers, right? Crowd up 7%, Okta 5%, PDD, China name up 4%, Zoom is up 4% today, Lulu up 4%. None of these names, none of the top 10 movers for the day, which were at the very least all up 3% for the day. Most of them around 4% for the day. None of them are in the top 5 of the queues. So that's why you're not seeing this. So even though up 0.75%, if you had some of those heavy hitters, we would be up. This would be like an up 1.5-2% day, right? And again, if you look at some of these names, that are not the big weights, they had huge days. All right. So that's a Nasdaq. Let's just look at this in terms of 1 hour. Right, and we are still like in value, but we're leaning a little bit here to the upside in the short term. Daily chart still looks very challenged. One of the things that we said, now again, we've got a lot of work to do in this index to make it look a bit better, but again, baby steps. It looks like we're trying to put in a higher low. Remember, once we started to turn down here, if you've been watching my videos, I talked about a couple different scenarios that could take place here. One was that we could come down here a little bit and then put in a higher low and then get going. So that's possibly in play. One day is not a trend, but that's a very good-looking candle. And yes, a higher low it would be very constructive. But we got a lot of work to do still to the upside. So you can't really say anything. We're still below the 20-day moving average, below the 50-day moving average. We did reclaim that short-term one for the day, 5-period moving average. All right, so that's the story there. And IWM, what can you say? Was up about 0.5% today, and definitely built off of yesterday's performance, which the small caps led just by basically being flat yesterday. All right, so that's the major indices. As I started with the video, I talked about bonds. What is TLT now up for the? Just so that we could see here. Let's see. Let me just put in 10, 8. 2021. Yeah, we're up to, I said almost 3%. We're up, TLT is up 2.4% for the day. So again, why is that important, right? Because everybody runs for the hills when interest rates go higher, right? That goes on when, right, it's an inverse relationship, and when bonds are going down, interest rates are going higher. So these last two green days have really given a nice relief rally to many of the growth names. And as I go through some of these names, many of these names are very close to, if not at 52-week highs, very close to 52-week highs. So let's start with what I thought was really interesting was the move in some of the cyber stocks. The ETF that I track is CIBR. That was up 2.1% for the day. And if you break this apart and look at some of the components, cyber, right, I believe did this make a new high? Yeah, so you look at this chart and you're like, wow, market must be doing really well. Look at CyberArk is up 6.8%. So again, this is where the strength is. Crowd really got going after their analyst day. They were up 7% for the day. This has kind of been a tough name recently. It's just been a lot of sideways, right? Very quick move here. Then, a move basically retracing almost the whole thing. Nice thing here is a little bit of a higher low, just like we talked about in the Qs. A little bit different looking chart, but that is a higher low and nice move in CrowdStrike. So impressive. And then another one that we've talked about a few times, and I know some traders in Tribeca Trade Group have been playing this one, but MDB, right, got a little bit into this earnings gap back here, but held nicely, got rejected here, so this was kind of a tough day. Started to go higher and failed, but didn't go too far back, and last 3 days I've been super strong in this name. Also kind of sticking with this group, Zscaler, that's a name I think that we talked about in yesterday's video. I go through so many names, sometimes I forget which video, and I do two of these videos a day. But really nice move here after getting in value. BILL, also another one, right back to that top of value for the month, right? So it's the high point for the month, and testing those previous highs. So I would watch that 249. Datadog was the play that I put on at the end of the day yesterday. Also breakout to new highs. So this was really nice for me. Look at the volume too on the break higher. I was patient with this one. Wanted to see this thing get back above value, and it was nice because it just got a little bit above value. I took one target. I mentioned this one we definitely reviewed yesterday. Took this thing out yesterday, but just goes to show you how a new day can kind of just get this thing going. Task was another one. I know a lot of people talking about this one. Nice move today, up 15%. Took its time. Remember, Task was this really nice outperformer, even when the market was a little bit weak back in the beginning and middle of September. But monster day, and this gets you back inside value. So again, just been quiet, right? SE is another one. So just monster move, up 7.5%. This looked like it almost was about to break down on this particular day. Didn't look good, but now above the trend line, and again, giving some of these things some patience and some room, and they really got going. DOCN is another one, out to new highs. So again, like I said about a couple minutes ago, just a huge day for growth names. I traded some Affirm today. This worked. I hit a couple targets with this one. Right, still very strong chart. I'm still in some Upstart. I'm in my last piece of Upstart. New closing high for Upstart. INMD, monster day off that guidance yesterday. Still in this one in two places, just like Upstart. I'm in both my trading account and the TTG trend portfolio. So, another one, right? Up 13% for the day. So, very, very impressive, some of these names. And again, without really the FANG stocks, which are the big names in the indices, contributing. And then there was a couple other names that acted very well too. Even like a Roku did well today. After this big green candle, a little bit of digestion. AMD also got going today. I think this took out two VPOCs, version point of controls, almost. There's one up here at 110. Very close to taking that out. So nice to see the semiconductors. I talked about how that was yesterday's video I mentioned concerning in a lot of videos. A couple times in yesterday's video. I still think the semis, up a little bit less than 1%, just an inside day. So, while this was a really great move today and many stocks acted very well, I think I just went over about 10 of these names. Remember, one day is not a trend, and, continue to kind of play to the strength, I think, and try to stay out of the ones that are underperforming and be wary of the names that are seeing rotations. I got caught in a couple names today. Today wasn't all perfect for me. Still nice, third day in a row for me. Nice positive P&L, but I'm not getting over the tips of my skis with risk, and some names just didn't work out for me. All right, so I'll go into a couple of those. All right, so here's my trade blotter again. I always show for my trading account everything that I did today. I think I'm probably one of the only people on Twitter or who's out there who show their trades and what they did for the day. But here they are. This is it. But yeah, you're going to see a couple things in here. I got stopped out of Boeing. Right, it's not fun when that happens. Especially when you're looking for something to happen, and it gave a pretty decent tease the other day. Yesterday was not a good candle either, and that was probably hindsight 2020. I probably should have just said, "Hey, get out of it," because it's not doing what you want to do, which is break over the 200-day moving average. So, cost me a little bit of pain today, but hey, that's what we're going to see in this type of market right now. When you're trying to participate in a couple different areas of the market, you realize there's going to be rotation. I also got out of KRE. Even though that recovered, still, this was not a good candle. I was hoping that we might kind of sit back and just chop a little bit, but it did hit my stop price intraday, so I got out of that one. I forgot to mention plug power. This was nice. This is after I already had taken a number of targets. So I took one target pre-market on this. They had two things that happened for them positively today. They got an upgrade from Morgan Stanley, and secondly, they announced some joint study with Airbus, I believe. So up to another stock up 12%. I wanted to talk a little bit before I go back to that trade blotter. I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of the moves in commodities. Copper, huge move today, up 4% and out of value, trending. Right. I got a lot of questions today about gold. Right, I get it. There's a lot of interest in gold, right? Everybody thinks that gold. Well, I don't want to say everybody, but there is a thought that gold is good for inflation. It's still very sideways to me. So again, a nice move, up 2%. I actually traded a little bit of Newmont Mining today for a day trade, but it's not there yet. I mean, it will be there if it gets above 1821, right? Just by definition of what an uptrend is. Because this is still below the 200-day moving average. It's also inside the value area. So when we use volume at price, right? So we'll continue to watch gold, no doubt. But this is just a very sideways chart, right? It's kind of like looking at the IWM chart. You could pretend you see something going on in the IWM chart, but you just have to be patient and kind of wait for it to happen. All right. So that's gold, but I continue to get a lot of questions about what I think about gold, and it's just sideways. So, we're going to have, just like with IWM, which is very, very sideways, you're going to have a couple good days, when something's trading sideways, right? You're going to have some days where it's going to look great, and a up 2% day is rare for gold to finish on the highs. So we'll see if it has legs to it, and I'm all for it if it does happen. But until it happens, I get negative on things when they don't meet my system. I just move on to the next ticker. So that said, this looks pretty good. I got long some FCX today. Didn't break out. Talking about a stock that is not there yet. But I did position a little bit. Hopefully that it does break out. So again, this is pre-positioning. It is above the 200-day moving average, and that's what I'm going to be using for my stop. A little bit below that 200-day moving average, and I'm looking for this thing to break above 37. I did not take a target in this today, so about 36.75. But love that move in copper today. Hopefully we see some follow through in that. All right, other trades. Mention AFRM, MSI. Not huge momentum, but definitely the right direction. Comparatively to some of those other things up 10%, still nice green bar. Also, Salesforce worked for me too. This was a name I just liked the pattern that was materializing here. So took a target at that one at the end of the day. And what else? I think I covered the majority of these. Yeah, so that's it. That was my trading. I didn't go crazy active into all those names that I discussed. I have some of them, of course, the Upstart and the INMD, as well as Datadog, SE. I have those in the TTG Trend portfolio, as well as a couple other ones in there too. So, it's nice to participate in that way and to be positioning. We did a big rebalance in that portfolio today. I decided to get out of a couple ETFs and go into some of the single stocks in those ETFs, right? So looking for a little bit more alpha now that we're hopefully coming to the end of this choppy, area of the year. So that's my thought. I've been kind of hiding in a couple of those ETFs, which have a little bit less volatility than single stocks. So yeah, again, I continue to try to look at this market glass half full, and realize that we've been in a weak seasonal period, and that weak seasonal period basically comes to the close, and the seasonality improves by the end of the week, right? And again, that's just one factor, but it is a factor, and it's a piece of many pieces of that are in the puzzle. Again, for me, price and trend are most important things. All right, guys, I think that's enough names. We certainly covered a lot of things here, and a couple names I'm watching for tomorrow is some of the ones that I already mentioned. But Netflix, this is one of the FANG stocks that's been acting the best. Notice that this had nice volume on the break higher, and notice that now look at the volume on the last 4 days or 5 days, right? It's been digesting the gains. Very light volume, so I'm looking for this thing to pop back to new highs soon. All right, so we'll keep an eye on this one tomorrow, and also some of the medical devices. Right, we've seen the INMD be the leader in this group, but I would love to see other names in this group start to rebound from this. Remember, medical devices has been one of the strongest areas of the market. We did see a couple of the other medical equipment names, which I think is how Tandem is classified. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight green bars in Tandem. Dxcm, I didn't see where this one closed, but this is also looking okay. Again, it's been a slower mover, but it's moving in the right direction. And same thing, and last one we'll cover, Hcnp. Again, a little bit of a slower mover, but it's been moving in the right direction. All right, guys, have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow.